I mean, I've always, one thing that I feel like the military was really good for is like experiencing the worst that humankind has to offer teaches you a lot about people. And I feel like you get to clock the read on people really well. And I messed them up. Oh, a little closer. My bad. No, it doesn't mean you do. Do you ever get it wrong still? Yeah, 100%. You get that read wrong, you know? But I wasn't wrong about you, you know?
Yeah.
I felt that braddah, like, oh yeah, this is one of my peoples, you know? And yeah, I remember distinctly being like, bro, that fucking gold chain is fire, cuz. And I was like, oh, cousins, fuck fake, you know? Because like I wasn't trying, like it was almost like, I remember that chain, and I remember why I loved it is because I loved the fact that chain was fake and being able to tell people that.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't anything wrapped up in it. Like it was cool to me at the time because it was ridiculously
It's
big.
satire.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Well, it was ridiculous, and it's like we know braddahs that own chains like that. Like no disrespect to them, but to me, I thought it was funny because it's like if you know gold, that was like $80K on my neck if that was real, you know.
For real. But you know why I thought it was real was because of your energy. I was like, there's no way a guy that's this talented would have a fake chain because he obviously has earned it.
Right, and again, that's unironically, like that's something I have to credit to my experience in the military and war. Like going and seeing and doing and experiencing stuff that real and at that level, and just with people that operate at that level, like when you come back to the quote unquote real world, like it just, the matrix blinders are kind of off, you know?
Yeah.
And like for me at that time, like music was actively helping to save my life. You know?
Okay, so when you say that you saw a different side of life, you saw a dark side of life that most of us have no idea of, and we probably can only reference war movies. Right. And that's also a part that I feel like we've touched on, but you've never really fully explained to me what it did to Kealoha. Are you willing to speak a little bit on that?
It indelibly changes you. Like you don't get to walk away from that experience without fingerprints all over you. And I think every person's experience with that is different. It's like you lose something of you that we take for granted here in the West. You know, I've talked about this before, but there's a barrier that we get to have growing up in the West that it's for the most part you're completely unaware of it. Like it's things that you just they don't come into your mind space. You like when you're thirsty, you turn on the water. When your hands are dirty, you turn on the water to wash your hands. You know what I'm saying? When your fridge is empty, you go buy food. When your truck is empty, you fill gas. You know, these are things that we're just used to. They're everyday part of our life. We're unique in that. Like we are a smaller percentage of the world that has access to that than a lot of the world, you know, especially places where these foreign wars are existing. And I think a lot like grief, the experience of those places, when you come back home, you kind of just realize how this is all, not that it's fictitious, but it's just
a facade.
I don't even want to say that because it's real to us, right? And it's like I have kids now; it's real to my kids, but it's just not. It's not everything that it's made up to be, you know. And for me, at that time, when I first came back, I needed help and I needed to deal with things, and I wasn't. So music was standing in the gap. Now, for good or for bad, right? For good or for bad, I look at it as good, right? Because what I look at it as is I did eventually grow to the point where I understood that I needed more help than just this art outlet, right? But at that time, music brought me all of the brothers that would walk through the darkest valleys with me. Music brought me you. Music brought me Moxie. Music brought me Jimmy Hurdle. You know what I'm saying? Music brought me Steezy. Music brought me Os, my braddahs, Ku'u, Coins, Day, Izzy, Quali. You know what I'm saying? Josh, Decibel, Gums, like all these braddahs that would pour into my life, that I would get to pour into their life, that it was ragtag, man. It was just like, it was real hip hop kids. You know what I'm saying? Like doing stuff for the love of hip hop, you know, for hip hop's sake, you know, like there was still a checklist when we were in that era, you know? So what that provided for me, weirdly, right, as chaotic as it was, is it provided structure for me. Coming from a structured atmosphere like the military, it provided a structured checklist for me. Like, you gotta be savage. Got it. Coming for head tops. You gotta be down for battle, anyone, anytime, any moment. Got it. You gotta be foaming at the mouth for get on stage. Got it. You got to be able to take a crowd that's barely paying attention and turn them into the palm of your hand. Got it. You know what I'm saying? Like this is checklists of things like, okay, you got to have all these things. You got to have these attributes. You got to have these accolades. You got to have, you got to move this way, you know? And for me, what that was doing was it was standing in the gap of some very real, very dark things, you know? You shared about it recently on your own podcast, and I was there multiple times, you know, where the thought of the solution being eating my pistol was the best solution, you know? There was multiple layers to it. There was part of me thought it was some sort of sick cosmic joke at the time that I made it, and some of my friends didn't. I also thought that I had a real struggle with why I was here. Like, why did I, at 17, join? Why did I experience all these crazy, crazy things? And then as a young adult, when, you know, most of my friends had their shit together, for lack of a better term, you know, and I was struggling, you know, I was just struggling. Like, I didn't fit the boxes. I didn't want to be corporate. I didn't want to be a real estate agent, you know, like no shade to anybody, you know, it's just like, I just knew those things weren't for me. And all my friends were going in all these directions. They're having kids, you know, like, our kids are similar age. Like, we both have young kids, but we also both have friends that are our age that have kids that's graduating high school.
Yes,
you know. Sir. So it's like we comparatively for Hawaii standards, we had kids really late in our 30s. Yeah, which is, you know, by Hawaii age ranges, that's late. Like
some of these guys start at 16.
Yeah,
though.
Exactly. But yeah, for me, I mean, what it really was is the art was providing me an outlet that at the time I had no idea was to an unhealthy point, because I relied on it for everything. You know, it became my God at the time.